Hey, what's up guys? Tony here, and welcome to the very first installment of my European trip. I've been waiting to get this to you guys, so I'm making a quick little intro for it right now because it is a gameplay heavy commentary just because of the fact that the day that I'm talking about is a traveling day. So I'm going to put pictures in there when it's appropriate. I didn't take very many, so that's why it's gameplay heavy. So if you guys want, I put in some flying. I thought it was quite appropriate since the fact that I spent almost an entire day, it felt like, in the air or on some sort of an aircraft or in the airport. So anyways, guys, sit back, relax. I hope you guys enjoy the commentary, all right? Hey, what's up, guys? Tony here, and this is going to be the first installment of my Europe trip. And what I think is the best thing to do is to start at the proverbial beginning, but not like the, and before time there was light and space and dark, not like that. Not like that. I'm going to start out in around March of 2010. And around March of 2010, some friends of mine, we all got together, and we're all from different parts of California, but we all culminate, get together every now and again for various events and stuff. So we all got together, and we had, my buddy Nick was saying that in May of 2011, he had planned to go to Europe, and he was going to backpack for 30 days, and I was just kind of like, whoa, I want to do this. I've never done anything like this. So I told my buddy Nick, I was like, I want to do this. I have never done anything like this before, and it would be awesome. And the reason why I wanted to go with him specifically is because, well, he's a Russian immigrant to the States. He moved here when he was a kid with his mom from Russia to San Francisco, and so he speaks Russian, he speaks English, and he speaks French because he went to a French prep school in San Francisco. He speaks a little German, and he speaks a little bit more than German, like a little bit more than German. That doesn't make any sense. But he speaks a little bit of Spanish, but more than the little bit of German that he speaks. Does that make any sense? Anyway, so his main three languages: Russian, English, French. Probably conversational Spanish because he spent a little bit of time in Mexico City this last year or so. And then some German. So the guy's got like 5 languages rolling around his head. I don't know how he does it. It's amazing. But he was going to be like the guy to be an interpreter, and that was it. So then it started to build up from there. Like my friend Laura was like, "Oh, I want to go. I've always wanted to go." And then my really good friend Tira was, yeah, she's pretty much like my sister. She's like, "I want to go too." So we all got amped up. I'm like, "Okay, we're going to save for over a year." And the magic number, I asked Nick, and Nick was like, about $5,000. So I said, okay, magic number, $5,000. Let's get this started. And then it pretty much fell through. I started working at Pizza Hut. I think it was probably like around February of 2010. So I just started working again after having a little bit of time off. And so I was like, I'm going to save all my tip money. And so, I bought some things, like I got my passport. I got a traveling backpack that was several $100s, and it's just been sitting there forever. And then it was quite apparent that the Euro trip was going to fail around December-ish. And that was right about the time that I met this girl, Dana, in one of my literature classes. And so it was around December-ish of 2010 and we started dating. And the Euro trip was still an idea. And my friend, now this is where it gets a little convoluted a little bit, is my friend Elizabeth, who I've known since high school. We have a history together. We used to date for a couple of years. We dated, and then we broke up. And so, that was just it. But we remained really good friends. Well, she joined the Peace Corps, and she moved to Ukraine. And I had told her that when she was over there, while she was still here in the country, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be in Europe May of 2011. You would have been there about, I don't know, a year, half a year, 6 months or so. Maybe we should meet up somewhere in Europe and get a drink. I just learned the phrase tie one on. I'd never heard it before. But I was like, we should tie one on, and she told me about it. So anyways, so we talked about it. We talked a lot on Skype, and so the ball was rolling. And then Dana, she didn't really like the fact that I was talking with my ex-girlfriend, and then the other things that were involved. So she ended up breaking up with me around March or so. And so I got my my tax return for the year in, and it was actually pretty substantial. It was the biggest tax return I've gotten yet. So it was like $1,500. And so I'd been talking with Elizabeth about this trip, and one day I was looking at ticket prices, and they were really, really good. They were under $1,000 for a round trip for the time period that I wanted. And so I bought the tickets. Bam, like that. I just, I was like, F it. I got the money. I want to do this. I'm going to make it happen. So it was around, I don't know, probably May of 2011, when I wanted to be in Europe, I bought the ticket to go in December. And so I was like, wow, this is going to happen. And so then for the rest of the time until December, I was saving up. So I'd been saving up money since May. And, I was buying things, I was buying clothes, and I was buying shoes, and I was getting, winter gear. Because if you don't know, I live in San Diego, and this is not a snow community. And the coldest it gets here is like maybe the high 30s sometimes, like very rarely. And we're very fortunate. We are like super fortunate to have good weather here 99% of the time. Even when it rains, it's not terrible. It only lasts a couple of days, and you're just kind of like, people drive like shit. And anyways, so I don't know anything about cold weather, and so I put a video out. People were giving me advice on like where to buy stuff, and I was following their advice. And by the way, thank you guys for all your advice on like how to dress. Looking back now, and I'll probably talk about this again later, looking back now, like I packed way more clothes than I actually used. It was insane how not cold it was. I thought it was going to be a lot colder. I thought it was going to be blizzardy all the time. Anyways, I guess that's sort of my naivete when it came to cold weather, because I just don't deal with it, It's whatever. Anyway, so then I had everything together, and when it came down to the weeks before my trip, I was towards the end of finals, and I really hadn't started packing. And so when finals ended, and then it was like finals, and then Christmas, and then leave. I left on the 27th of December, and I was going to be gone until the 17th of January. And so in between that time, I accidentally destroyed my computer with a soda, and I intended to do all this stuff before I left, and I didn't do any of it. And so when I left, I almost felt like I left things undone, And I joked with some people, and guys like Colin, long-time subscriber, and a guy I talk with a lot on Skype. He just was joking with me like, "Oh, do you make sure you have your health insurance or your life insurance policy all squared away?" Because I don't have a problem with flying, but there's like that time where you're just like afraid of crashing. I don't know how else to say it, but it's you take off. It's a takeoff for me is like the worst part. You're just like, oh my god, we're so full of jet fuel. If we like have a bird strike or a malfunction, you see those videos of planes going down and it's just a big ball of fire. And that, I don't know why. It's just like takeoffs are like the most thrilling thing for me, because I'm a car guy. I like speed, I like torque, I like the feeling of force. And so when you take off, it's just like, oh my gosh, these engines are so powerful. But then at the same time, you're just like, oh dang, we are like defying gravity right now. It's scary. I don't know about you guys. But it's me. So let's move on from there. What I'll tell you is the flight from Los Angeles, because I had to drive up to LA. So the flight from LAX to Paris, because I had a nonstop flight, was probably the most grueling thing that I've ever had to do. And it was really exciting because I had never had the opportunity to use my French. And so I tried. I really did. So, people would come up with the carts. And I was flying. Oh, here's the weird thing. I bought my flight through Delta. But the aircraft that I was flying on was an Air France flight. And I was just kind of like, that's weird. And so I went to Delta. And I got there like 3 hours early because I wanted to make sure I was there with plenty of time to get through security and all this crap. Oh, and by the way, like dressing... Like I had like thermal like Under Armour on, and like jeans and wool socks and like the long sleeve shirt. I was like dressed for snow. I was so uncomfortable and so hot in LA when I took off, and it's just, oh my god. So anyways, so I was uncomfortable and hot, and I'm sitting on an airplane. You don't get to move very much, and I'm 6'3", and my knees like it's a very uncomfortable situation for me to fly. I don't hate flying, but I really wish that I was rich enough that I could pay for first class. So anyways, the people, the Air France people, they're all French, like everything's in French. Like the pilot will announce stuff in French, and then he'll come over in English and tell you what's going on. And the maps that show up, they got a really cool airplane, like the digital map that shows you like where you are. GPS is all included, and they've got movies that you can pay for and TV shows. You can watch American TV or whatever. Listen to whatever you want, music and stuff. There's amenities the aircraft had, and of course, like they gave you, I think it was like lunch or dinner on the flight for free, and then of course they came by every hour or so. They were like, "What would you like to drink?" Well, they'd tell you, ask you in French first, and then if you didn't respond quickly in French, they'd ask you in English, and so the the first time the guy came by and he said something, I don't remember exactly what he said. Probably whatever beverages, or like, what would you like to drink in French? And I said, un Coca-Cola, s'il vous plaît. And he gave me a Coke. And I was like, yeah, I got my French in. Woo! And then the next time I was just kind of like tired, so it's just like, water, please. You know, I forgot what water is. It's like bouteille, un bouteille or something like that. But yeah, that was really interesting. Like seeing the interaction, like the international crowd in the airplane was just, for me, is really interesting. It was fascinating because I had never been overseas before. And so for me, my culture has been the United States of America. I mean, I've been to Canada, and but I was really young, so I don't really remember it. And I've been to Mexico, like not Mexico, but I'm like to Tijuana, like border towns and stuff. So apparently, like Mexico is pretty good. But I mean, I don't really have much of an interest to go myself, to be honest. But anyways, the whole like culture, and a lot of people don't understand this, and this is something that I was thinking about today when I was thinking about this commentary, is that we are an island, cultural island here on this continent, the North and South American continent. You know, it's all one connected continent. You know, it's like we're an Oreo cookie minus like the top of the cookie's been bitten off for the most part. So we got like a little bit of America sandwiched or Canada is sandwiched between America and a little bit of America. You know, we got Alaska, Canada, America, United States, Mexico, and then you've got the South American countries. But for the most part, it's English speaking or Spanish speaking with a little bit of Portuguese down in South America. So the culture itself is all the same for the most part. I mean, I know Spanish culture being in the San Diego area, and of course I know an English speaking culture. I mean, I don't know like the specifics of Canadian culture. I guess French Canada is there, so they speak French too. So anyways, the point is that as far as diversity is concerned, there's not a lot. Like the Canadian people I have met, they act like Americans, you know, and I imagine there are some they'll say that Americans act like Canadians. You know, there's a commonality in the way that we behave. And so like I said, the point is that this continent is an island to the rest of the world. You know, we don't have to deal with the things that the other countries have to deal with. So going overseas and having French people on board and having Germans and all these Italians and all these different languages going on, it was exhilarating. It was really exhilarating. And so it took like 10 hours to get to Paris. And when I first bought my flight, I wanted to get a flight that gave me a 22 hour layover. I wanted a 22-hour layover in Paris because I actually wanted to take the TGV, and I think it goes to Charles de Gaulle, but the TGV, the high-speed train, I think it goes there. I'm not sure. But anyways, I wanted to take the train into Paris and go spend the day in France, in Paris, and see Paris. I was there. I was like 30 miles away from Paris. But as it turned out, the flight that I ended up selecting was only a 3-hour layover, so I was not about to go in Paris for an hour and then come back, and so that was that. So I was done. But when I landed, I had to go through customs and I had to go through security and all that stuff again, which I thought was interesting because I was in an international terminal, but I exited the international terminal, so I got my passport stamped with, boom, Charles de Gaulle, Paris, time, stuff like that. So I got a stamp in my book that I've been to France, but I haven't really been to France. I've only just been to the airport. And so, but for me, it was the first overseas experience. Like when I landed, I was just kind of like, oh my God, I am in another country. I could go by train or drive or walk, but any way of locomotion that I want to, I can go from France to China. Like the rest of the world is to my east. And if you don't understand that, then you haven't been off of our continent, because it's so mind-blowing to think that the rest of the world you can reach by land, by the old Roman roads, as it were. Anyways, even now when I think about it, it's so fascinating. So anyways, I had to go through security, and I was nervous about trying to speak some French, and then most everybody minus one guy, everybody was speaking English, and so, which was nice. It was very nice because I could ask people, because my boarding pass for the Air France flight to Poland, because that was where my ultimate destination was, it didn't have a gate number on it, and so I asked the guy, and he goes, oh, you're going to have to go through security, go into the international terminal, and you have to wait until the flight becomes available, because it was like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. And so, okay. But here's what's kind of strange is that some people, they hear those stereotypes about French people and how they're rude and they don't like speaking English and stuff. Well, while I was waiting to go through security to get into to get to the main security where they like check you out and stuff like that, this girl comes up to me and she's like, "Do you speak French?" And I said, "No, I don't. I mean, like a little bit, but I couldn't, you know." And she tells me her whole story, like, you know, her connecting flight is going, it's leaving in like 15 minutes. The security guard won't let her take one of her check bags with her, or I mean, her carry-on bag. They want her to check it, and it's a whole fiasco. And the guy's being a dick, and he won't speak English to her. He'll only speak French, which is really weird. And so I am, unfortunately, I can't help her. I wish I could. I really wish I could, but I hope she made her flight, because it would really suck if she missed her flight. So that was one of those things. But my point is that and if you've never been overseas, I don't think you can experience this, because here in the States, when you see like another American, you're just kind of like, that's just another American. But when this girl was talking to me, there was this kinship, this brotherhood that we're the same. We're Americans. You can ask me for anything. I can ask you for anything right now. We're in another country. We don't speak the language. At least I don't speak the language very well. She doesn't speak the language at all. And there's a commonality and a kinship, you know. And when I met Americans throughout my trip, it was the same thing. I felt drawn to them. Like, you know, I know you. You know me culturally. We speak the same language. We can talk about stuff. And it was so strange, and it was fascinating, and it was exciting, and it was just like, it was one of those notes you keep in your head. You're just like, man, that was so different, you know, and it gives you a new appreciation for, I guess, your fellow countrymen, you know, because right now, I mean, you don't really think about it. You go and you see some jackass cut you off, you're just like, fuck that guy, he's an asshole. But then that guy might be in an airport in another country, and you see that guy, and you know he's American, you know he knows you're American, and you guys start talking. Suddenly he's not the asshole who cut you off on the freeway. He's your brother, you know. He's your co-patriot, you know. He's your comrade, you know. He's one of you, you know. I can't quite explain it properly. I hope I'm conveying it properly, but it's one of those complex, I guess, thoughts, you know, just trying to get out of my head. But anyways, I had to go through security, and then the security guard's like speaking French to me, and I'm trying to reply in French, and then finally he realizes I got shitty French, and I said, parlez-vous anglais? He said, oui, and I'm like, you know, je suis étudiant en français, you know, and he goes, oh, okay, asked me where I was from. It was California, and you know, okay, so he lets me go through security, and then I go, and then suddenly I'm just like, whoa, you see this area, this airport, like, it's so different than what I'm used to. I've been to LAX, I've been to Lindbergh in San Diego, I've been to JFK and Logan and airport in Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, and my very few travels throughout the States. And this is a whole new world. And I remember I went to the ATM and I got money out, because I didn't want to put everything on my card. I wanted to make sure to take money out. So I got like 20 euro out, and you know, I spent it on miscellaneous stuff. Like I bought things that I wanted to keep, like postcards, a magazine. The magazine was actually just so I could put stuff in, because I didn't actually bring anything that I could put like fragile stuff in, like postcards, and my mom wanted spoons. Like she had this awesome spoon collection, and then somewhere along the many moves that my family's had over the years, it got lost. So I made it a point to buy her one of those collectible silver spoons at every city I went to. So I picked up like 4 or 5 spoons for on trip. So I found one, it's a silver spoon with the Eiffel Tower at the top, and I bought that for, I can't remember how many euros it was, but it must have been like 10 or whatever. But yeah, I bought that stuff, and I bought some magazines, and I bought some Cokes, and you know. It's just, and I went to the bathroom. I had to go to the bathroom really bad, and so that was, I don't know why, but I have a fascination for some reason with bathrooms, and so I took a picture of the bathroom in the Charles de Gaulle Airport, but I just kind of hung out in the bistro area, and I had some food, and they have some really good airport food. It was like, it was not catered, but it was very well presented, and it was kind of expensive, and I didn't know what the hell was on it, because it really didn't look like food that I've ever seen. I mean, it was food. You could tell it was like a sandwich, but it was just like a sandwich with stuff on it. You know, it just didn't look like something I'd pick up at Ralph's or Albertsons or anywhere, you know. So I ate, I don't know, I can't remember what I ate. I think I had something. They didn't have any fast food there, so it wasn't like I could go to McDonald's or whatever. So I had something French, and it wasn't terrible. It was pretty good. But I had packed like Pop-Tarts and other very like Tony items with me. And yeah, so anyways, I waited around. I walked around. I paid for the internet. I got really bored while I was there. It was 3 hours. You know, when you're sitting around and you don't have anything to do, you've got nobody to talk to, 3 hours is a very long time. I don't know if you guys have ever done that before, but if you try it, like, you get bored within like the first 5 minutes. So I did weird stuff, like I walked around, I picked up a newspaper, I read some French. I was just like, oh, I can read that, I can understand that. I don't know what word that is. I don't know what word that is. I don't know. Okay, now I can't read the rest of the article. And then I picked up this international article that had like English and German and French and Spanish and Japanese or something in there. And so you just kind of picked it up. I was looking through it. I was reading the English articles, and it was about the United States. And it was really interesting to read like how the European nations view the United States and view the economy, and it was a very refreshing thing to get a different take on it. I mean, I know I'm talking a lot about the airport because this is kind of like my first whole experience, because when I left at 11 o'clock on I believe it was a Tuesday. It was like a Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock, and when I landed, it was Wednesday afternoon or something. So like, because of the international date time, I lost a day, and I was so like, oh my god, I'm so confused and disoriented, and like, I was still, for me, it was like nighttime, but it was in the middle of the day, and jet lag, and my head was just kind of like hurting. I was starting to get a headache, and anyways, it was such a weird day. So the first day, like, it needs to be encapsulated into one commentary. Eventually, my flight came up, and so we went to the jetway. We went to go like get on the airplane, but then you go downstairs, and then boom, we're outside, and it's raining and stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, are we really taking off? Like, we're going to board the aircraft from the runway? I've never done that before. And of course, my aunt and my mom are like, oh yeah, we used to always board airplanes from the tarmac. You know, that's nothing new. So I was kind of like, oh, c'est la vie, I guess. You know, the whole like when in Rome expression, you know, when in France. And so I boarded the aircraft, and thank God there was nobody sitting. I had like 2 or 3 seats like next to me, wide open. And my flight was like 2 hours from Charles de Gaulle to Warsaw, where was my final destination. I was meeting my friend Elizabeth and her Peace Corps volunteer friend Molly. And so I took off. I didn't take off. I'm not Superman, but the plane took off, and I was actually at that point I was really tired. There was a couple times where I wanted to fall asleep, but I was just kind of like, it's the middle of the day. I kind of want to force myself to stay up, but we got airborne, and I literally fell asleep, and I slept through the whole flight. I was asleep by the time the aircraft was airborne. I had almost fallen asleep on the runway, and it was one of those things where I was like totally nervous about flying. I was just like, fuck it, I'm so tired. If I fall asleep and we crash, I'm dead. Whatever, I'll never know. But yeah, we take off, and so when we were coming in to land, one of the flight attendants comes up, and it's this guy. He's like, Monsieur, would you like something to drink? You know, you are sleeping the whole time. You know, he kind of a thick French accent. And I said, no, I'm fine, thank you. And he's like, water? Would you like some water? I'm like, no, I've got some water here. Thank you, though. Because I packed like a big thing of water in my bag. It was ridiculous. But yeah, we landed, and I landed in Warsaw. And I didn't get a stamp in Warsaw because apparently they just let foreigners into their country. Well, I guess it's technically not, because no, they weren't on the Euro. So like I saw where my bags were, and I was walking through, and there was a Polish lady and I was in the customs area, and I looked at her and I was just kind of like, yeah. Does anyone need to stamp my passport? Is what I told her, and she didn't really speak English. I mean, like, very well. She's like, no, just go. And she just points to the door. I'm like, seriously? I'm just gonna walk. Okay, whatever. So, so I'm like, they just let anybody into their country. And so, I had bought an international plan before I left, and so I called my mom, and I was like, hey, I'm here in Poland. I called her when I was in France, and I was just like, hey, I'm here, I'm okay, and everything's fine, and my bags are here and all that stuff, but I gotta get going because I gotta find Elizabeth and Molly. And sure enough, like, I get my bags, and boom, they're almost immediately, like, I'm walking towards the outside because I didn't want to go very far, and there were guards, and that was another thing that really got me. When I was walking through the Charles de Gaulle airport, and then of course later on in the Warsaw airport, is there were armed guards, like military uniform, armed guards with rifles at the ready. And it was something I wasn't used to. I was like, holy crap, this is like, airport security is not just TSA guys in like bright blue shirts and like, ooh, I'm gonna look at your luggage and I'm gonna be a dick, blah, blah, blah. These were like legitimate military people who you don't fuck with them if they want to talk to you about something, and you're just like, okay, let's talk. There's no attitude given to the guy with the gun. And so it was definitely a different experience. But yeah, I met up with Elizabeth, Molly, and it was like, yeah, let's go. And so, we left the airport, got on a bus, and drove for like a half hour through Warsaw to get to our hostel, the Okie Dokie hostel. So anyways, guys, I'm up on to 26 minutes, but that's the first leg of my trip. I'm going to talk about Warsaw next, because Warsaw and then the other town I went to, Krakow in Poland, I think they deserve two entirely separate commentaries because of everything that I saw in both cities. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll talk to you later.